Hey, what's up YouTube? Another video by Ratchets and Wrenches, and still working on this Woody PT Cruiser. It's got the 2.4 liter non-turbo engine, and today I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the spark plugs on these. As you can see, the two center spark plugs are right underneath your intake manifold. There's probably a way to get at them without removing the intake manifold, which will involve using a variety of extensions and ratchets and whatnot, but removing the intake manifold is not as hard as it looks. It's pretty straightforward. So actually I'm going to remove the intake manifold to get to the spark plugs. It just makes life easier. Also, whenever you're replacing your spark plugs, you want to make sure the car is properly cooled. If you were driving it, make sure you let it sit for at least 5 hours, preferably overnight. That way you don't damage the spark plug threads when you take them out and put in the new ones. Okay, so first we want to remove our air filter housing. We do that by first disconnecting and removing this connector, which we do by first pressing up on this red tab and then pressing down on the black tab and then pulling it. Next we will unscrew this screw that's connecting this our air filter housing to our throttle body. Next we remove this vacuum hose that's going from our valve cover to our air filter housing. There we go. Next we just disconnect this hose from the throttle body and then pull on this housing, and it should pop out of place. There we go. Okay, so in order to take this intake manifold off, besides all these I think these six little 8mm bolts that are holding it into the bottom portion of the intake manifold, there's also two bolts, that one, and then there's another one on the back of the throttle body that connect the intake manifold and the throttle body to those brackets that are onto the cylinder head. So we're going to remove those bolts next, and then we're going to go after all the connectors and vacuum lines, which I will disconnect this one from here right now. There we go. That one goes from your PCV valve. That's your PCV valve to your intake manifold. Where was it? There. Okay, next we're going to remove this bolt, which requires a 13mm socket. Okay, next we remove this bolt in the back of the throttle body and the intake manifold, which requires a 12mm socket. This one also seems to be holding a bracket for wires and the cables and stuff that goes to the intake manifold. Here's the bolt, here's the bracket. Okay, so basically we're going to go around removing all the connectors from our wiring harness that go to the throttle body and the intake manifold, also all the vacuum lines. We're going to start here. This is the connector for your throttle body position sensor. Just press on this tab back here and pull. Next, this is a vacuum line. I think it goes from here to your evap canister, but don't quote me on that. So just get that out of the way. Next, this connector for your idle air control valve. Just press on that tab and pull. Okay, next we'll disconnect this connector, which is our mass air pressure sensor. Just pull on this red tab and then press on the gray and pull, and it should come out. There we go. Also make sure it pops out of this bracket that's on the intake manifold. Yeah, there we go. Next we disconnect this vacuum line here. And also this one's for your power brake booster. Okay, next we're going to remove these 5 bolts. They're 8mm that are holding this upper part of the intake manifold to the lower part of it. And we're just going to lift this as one unit and just go back here. You might want to get a bungee cord ready. I'm not going to remove the throttle cables. Just going to leave those on there. Just going to remove the intake manifold with those on there. Just push it up and out of the way. Okay. Okay, now we're ready to lift this bad boy out of here. There we go. Don't really need a bungee cord, but actually you might. Okay, and here's a look at the top of the engine without the intake manifold on. All sorts of room here now to take out these spark plugs. There's the bottom portion of the intake manifold. Here's the upper portion. Good time to replace these if you haven't done so. These are pretty pliable. They're not dry at all. So I'm not gonna touch those. So I'm gonna leave those on there. So next, just gonna take out the spark plug wires and we're gonna take out our spark plugs. Okay, so when taking out the spark plug wires, you want to grab them at the boot and turn and pull, and they should come out. There we go. Okay, so take out the spark plugs. You'll need a 5/8 spark plug socket, or you can just use a regular 5/8 that's long. But then you'll need these usually come with a rubber boot inside them that will catch the spark plugs and help you pull it out. I'm missing mine, but then I got a little magnet to fish it out of the spark plug wheel when it's completely loosened. Okay, again, make sure you do this when the engine is cold. Okay, you don't want to do this while it's hot. And you know it's cold when you can easily touch the cylinder head without, you can leave it on there for 10 seconds without burning your hand. That's when you know it's good. It's cool enough so you can remove these spark plugs. There is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I got our new spark plugs. What you want to do is first, obviously, you want to gap them. These are Autolite and they came pre-gapped. The gap for this car is from 0.048 to 0.053 thousandths of an inch. So you want to make sure that's within you want to measure it and make sure that's what you have before you start putting them in. I actually have another socket that comes with the rubber boot that holds these in place, so this is going to be a lot easier. While reinstalling these, when you go and put it in, make sure you can turn it by hand. You should be able to turn it by hand all the way. If you're unable to turn it by hand all the way, you're putting it in at the wrong angle, and if you keep going or force it with a ratchet, you're going to ruin the threads in your cylinder head, and then you'll be in a lot of trouble. So turn this all the way in by hand, and then you pull it out, hopefully your socket. Okay, I remember why I'm going to use this. There we go. Hopefully your socket will come out. But yeah, that's what you want to do for all the spark plugs. Okay, next it's time to torque these down, and the torque for these is about 13 foot-pounds, okay? Okay, it's time to put our ignition wires back in. Make sure when you put them in, they go in all the way and click into place, okay? Okay, next it's time to get our intake manifold back on here. And this should be pretty easy. Make sure all these vacuum lines back here are out of the way. There we go. Next you want to start these on the throttle side, making sure before you tighten down the front of the intake manifold so this way you make sure these can go in, okay? And then after you get the front of the intake manifold bolted down, then we just come back and tighten these for good. Okay. Okay, and here's the rear one. Don't forget to get that bracket in there. This guy. Okay, now to tighten this, the front of this intake manifold, you need to tighten down this down and going in a sequence. You want to start from the center one, then this one in here, then this one, then this one, then this one. You can make 2 passes at this to be on the safe side. Just hand tighten it in the same sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you want to torque them down for their final torque, which is 9 foot-pounds. Okay, so after those torqued down, we can go ahead and tighten those 2 bolts for that the hold the throttle body to that bracket, and then just don't forget to put all your vacuum lines, you know, the connectors and all that stuff back in. Put your air filter box back in, and you're good to go. Just again, got to keep track of all the stuff you took out, all the cables and connectors and the vacuum lines. And yeah, don't let this job scare you. This is pretty easy. It'll go fast too. Shouldn't take you more than 20 minutes to, you know, take this out. Maybe 30 minutes, I guess, to get it out and get the spark plugs in and everything tightened down. Just take your time. It still beats taking, you know, trying to squeeze things in there, trying to get to the center, 2 center spark plugs. Okay, so yeah, hope this video helps people out there. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any comments, suggestions, please leave them below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.